Hey, everybody. I have on the line with me a very special guest. Her name is Shari Rowe, and she is a country and a country contemporary singer. And she has a brand new song that dropped called Last Time. She's always dropping singles, so we always have something to talk with her about, and we love that. Welcome to the show, Shari. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good too. I am good. I know it's going to be a little dark here, and I hope everybody can understand, but we are literally in a tornado watch.
Oh my God.
So there's some type of tornado cloud going up above us, and it is dark. So I apologize for that. But I'm so glad I got a chance to talk to you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
So you know what I love to do? I love to hear our stories and how we managed to get to where we are and what drove us to be in the field that we're in and some of the obstacles that you had to overcome to get to that, because somebody out there is struggling with something too, and they always think that they may not be good enough. But when we can show that when we can show our stories and that we were able to do it ourselves, that just tells other people that we have that they have the ability to. So let's learn a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about how you got into music, what made you love it so much and enough to pursue it as a career.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I believe wholeheartedly in finding what you love to do and following, your purpose. I think for me, early on, I didn't realize that it would be something I would choose as a career, but I can remember music being integral in every part of my life growing up. As a child, I remember writing silly songs even and coming out and showing my mom and saying, I wrote a song about my room, or jumping on horseback. I grew up in Arizona. So I would just on the weekends sometimes just hop on and just take off, follow the canal bank or the riverbed. And I remember noticing the rhythm of the hooves and even being a very young child and trying to find harmony with different sounds, even if it was like the vacuum or the AC running. I was always looking for harmonies, and my sister was too. And my brother is much older than me. And so he had a girlfriend who was his age, and she loved to sing and she loved harmony, and she has a beautiful voice. So we would all be singing all the time. We would record ourselves just for fun. We always had family talent shows. And then, little by little, I would say as a teenager, I started, I was in choir in school, and I was asked to do a solo. And to be honest, when I was asked to do that, it was a surprise to me. It was just singing was something that I loved to do, but I was not pursuing it in any way. So when I did that first solo, and I remember my teacher just being so encouraging, and that I think was a pivotal point for me. And then I started singing in singing contests around town, and one day I found myself, I was cleaning houses. My sister and I started a cleaning business together. And we didn't grow up with very much, like we always just got by. And so we started this business cleaning these huge mansions on the other side of town. And we met some great people, but what we found ourselves doing is writing songs while we were cleaning. And we would meet in the kitchen and say, oh, what'd you come up with? And then we ended up, a friend of someone who owned one of these great big mansions knew a producer and said, I really want you to meet this guy. And literally that's how my career started. One thing just leading to another, and building relationships in the industry. And then finally realizing, wow, I could actually do this. This could be my career.
That's a great story, because I have heard people not want to do something because they're it's kind of not, it's almost like they say it's beneath them. But yet I truly believe that no matter where we are in this world, we meet people and we have those experiences for a reason.
Yes.
And those lead to better, bigger and better things. So yeah, sometimes we have to crawl through the mud before we can walk through it. And therefore, that's exactly what happened. You were cleaning houses, probably not exactly what you wanted to do.
Right.
But look what it led to.
Exactly. Yeah. And those times, I think anytime we've all been through suffering and hardship, we've had our share. Everyone has a story. I believe that. And I really think that even in those times, my mom always instilled in me to really be in the moment and notice the good things around us. I mean, even if we had almost no food, we were having that meal and it was like the smell of the chicken cooking in the oven. And then she'd open the windows and it would be the breeze and the birds. And she just would always teach us to kind of take everything in. And so I think even in the hardest times, I've been able to find that good moment, that perspective. And I think that's something that she really taught me.
Now, I'd love to know, how did he know that you wanted to be in music and put you to the producer? Did he overhear you guys singing or anything like that?
Yeah. So the owner of the house, it was this amazing lady. Like, her name was Sharon, and she was just so giving and so generous. And she just kind of took us under her wing. She was Italian, and she made the most amazing food and amazing coffee. And she would always include us, even because we'd be there cleaning all day because it was such a big house. And so she would put on afternoon coffee for us, and she'd like share a little bit of her sauce and spaghetti if she was making it. And she was just that kind of person. So she noticed things. So she knew that we were always talking about music, that we were singing here and there. Like, it was just something we talked about because we had done just a couple songs in church. And I remember mentioning that to her. And it's funny because even in those times, she would even, in this beautiful mansion, in this big house with all these things around her, went through a lot of difficult times. And we got to know her really well cleaning her house. And there would be times where not only we'd be writing songs in the kitchen, but she would ask us to pray with her in the kitchen, and she knew that we relied on God and relied on our faith, and that that was something that we shared. So she opened up and recognized that. So I think not only can we have like a reason for being in those tough situations, and then eventually find, a form of prosperity, whether it be, in our souls or materially. I think that we're also used in those times. If we're looking for opportunities to be a blessing to someone, it could be a small thing. It could be just a kind word.
It can go a long way for sure.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to like the genre of music that you are in, which is country and contemporary country, what made country so inviting for you? And how did it help you define your style?
Well, I was raised listening to country music. My dad listened to the old classics, the legends, Waylon and Patsy Cline. And I remember taking drives and just hearing that in the background. And growing up in the Southwest, we did a lot of camping up in the mountains of Arizona, and we were always on horseback and having campfires. And I feel like I was just always hearing country music, and it really is the perfect backdrop for where we live. And it just came very natural to me. I have sung in church over the years off and on, and I've led worship services, and that's always going to be something that's special to me too. But as a songwriter, as someone who's writing about life and everyday life, I feel like country was a very natural place for me to land. And it also enables me to fully talk about every aspect of my life, which does include my faith and family. And I feel like it's kind of a given for me.
So who were some of the influencers in the country music that you admired and want to hopefully follow in their footsteps?
Yeah. I am a big Miranda Lambert fan, and I'm a big fan of the songwriters in Nashville. And Natalie Hemby is an amazing songwriter. She's written so much with Miranda Lambert and so many other people. And of course, she's an artist in her own right. But I love going to Nashville and going to the writers' rounds and connecting with other songwriters and doing co-writes. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of artists that I look up to. All of the artists that I've had the opportunity to open up for have all been very encouraging, and have always shown me that the hard work that they've put into it and the integrity that they've had while doing it really goes a long way. But the songwriters are really the ones that I'm kind of fangirling over all the time.
Nothing wrong with that. So looking at your first song that you've ever written, and probably even put into music and maybe even recorded, to the ones to this one here, Last Time, how has your style changed? Has it grown? Have you seen growth? And I think that's one of the most important things as an artist, that we see growth. Have you seen growth?
I have, and it's very encouraging. And I remember The very first song that I wrote was literally just a few things that I had scribbled on some paper that I didn't even really call a song. And it was that first producer that I mentioned earlier. He said, "Do you write?" And I said, "Well, I have a little thing here and a little thing there. And, I don't know if I'd call myself a songwriter." And he said, "Well, show me what you have." And he took those pieces and parts of that one song, and he came back the next week, and he had used his experience and he put it together, and he played a demo for me, just a really rough demo. And he said, "This is your song." He said, "You're a songwriter." And I'm like, okay. And so he taught me so many things. And every songwriter that I've worked with has taught me. I try to be a sponge when I'm in those rooms in Nashville with those amazing writers who have this long list of credentials. Yes, I have seen a lot of growth. That first song will always be special to me, but looking at the one that I put out now, I think it was fun to be able to take a risk creatively and do something a little outside of what I've released in the very recent past, which for me almost always lands in the genre or feel of those songs that really pull on your heartstrings. So it was fun to kind of branch out and feel the confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah. I love that you just said you take a risk, and this song was a risk for you. So tell me a little bit about what that risk was, and how was it challenging from the stuff that you normally do?
Well, everything well, not everything, but I would say predominantly what I've put out is songs of the heart. And, during the lockdown, I put out The Heavy and Long Hugs, and those songs, that is really kind of my wheelhouse. That's where I live. And that's always going to be the foundation for me. But this song, Willie Morrison and I were going to co-write together, and we didn't know what we were going to write that day. And we just started tossing around ideas, and I love it. I have another song called Southern Spells. That's a fictional character. It's not based on my own life or any inspiration of anybody I know. It just kind of came to life. And that's how it was with Last Time. This character came to life, and we realized very quickly, we kind of started giggling and laughing and thinking, well, that's kind of crazy. Okay, let's just say that, and let's just see where that goes. And that's crazy too. And the song is very tongue in cheek. For me, it was a risk because it's a little more poppy. Even, the track ended up just having this pop country undertone, which is more contemporary even than some of the stuff that I've put out recently. But I love it because I've always, even though I've had traditional instrumentation, I've always kind of leaned towards pop phrasing in my writing. So this one just was begging for this track that was kind of a throwback to 90s country and just over the top. And even in the styling for the cover, like we just went over the top with it. It's a crazy story. So
I like that it kind of brings back the 90s country, because I know in a lot of music today, we kind of lose some of that old style that I grew up with, and probably a lot of my other listeners did too. Yeah. So to hear something similar to that, I think that's going to be important for them, because then they're like, oh man, I remember the time when I heard songs like this. And, it brings us back to the good old days.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's what I would love to hear from the listeners as they entertain this new branch of my work. It is different than what I've done before, but I feel like it's still me. There's still very much my personality in it. I think it was a risk too, because the risks that the character is taking in the story, I mean, it's kind of a crazy, edgy storyline, but I have always imagined that there's this third verse that we didn't write. And when you look at the cover, there's 3 photos, and each photo represents a verse. Well, that third photo in pink represents the unwritten verse. And I've always imagined, because the song is all about, uh-oh, man, I shouldn't have done that. Oops, I'll never do that again, right? And it's regret. But I've always imagined if there were a music video, that last bit would be her in Vegas still, but she meets this amazing guy, and he really is the one. So they get married in Vegas, and now that's the last time she'll do that because she's found the one. So, yeah.
That's cool. I think we can all say, I wish I didn't do that, or, I'm never going to do that again. And hopefully we do learn from our mistakes.
Right.
And because if not, we usually end up in the hospital, or, multiple broken hearts or something, so it's good to learn from those mistakes.
Yes. Yep.
So when it comes to your music now, and this particular song, from the first moment you wrote it to the final production of it,
yeah,
did it change much? Did it grow much? And sometimes when you first write it, you expect it to be this way, but then when it comes out, it's either completely different or exactly the way that you like it, or it was completely blowing you away. How was it from the first moment you put the pen to the paper to write it to the way that it came out now?
Yeah.
What do you think's different about it? Did it grow? Are you happy with it? Are you happier than you thought with it?
I am very happy with it. I think songs, for the most part, I don't remember a time when I've walked away really disappointed with the end project. I think this song in particular, it's just, I love how the lyrical content really did speak to every person who was part of the song. So I always say it takes a village, because you have you writing and maybe a co-writer or two. And if that song is really good in its rawest form, just guitar and vocals, when you're leaving that co-write, if you feel like you have something good, it should sound great just like that. It should be able to say something and make you feel something even like that. And we thought it did. It was a lot of fun, And then going into the studio, Jamie Tate at Ruckus Room, where we consult with the band beforehand, we play the demo, we talk, and everybody was just like, let's just get a little crazy with this. I mean, the storyline is crazy. Let's just make it over the top. Let's make the track big. And man, they did it. They brought it home. Tommy Harden led the band, and Jeff West was on electric, and everybody that played on it just sold it. They bought it and then they sold it. And it was like, it's great. It's better than I could have imagined.
That's always a plus.
Yeah.
Now, take us into the recording studio for this particular song. Sometimes I read this article about the Beatles one time. I think it was like either Memorial Day, Labor Day, something like that. They ran in and recorded one of their most popular songs, and they did it in one take, left in like 15 minutes, and they were done. I mean, it's just a mic drop moment,
Yeah.
So how was it for you for this particular song? Did it give you any trouble? Did it come out really smooth and easy? What were some of the easiest parts and some of the harder parts of the song to produce?
That's a good question. I think when you have amazing players and amazing band, like we did in that session, I think things just talent just oozes out of these people, So I gave them the vision for what I wanted, and Jamie and I talked through it. And I really think that it came very naturally to everybody. Jeff West, his electric parts are very important to the song. That hook line, he came up with that. I think that's important. It's on all the turnarounds. I think it really helps the song be what it is. David Dorn on keys, everything he had some kind of loop stuff going. I think it all kind of gave the song this sort of eccentric kind of feel, kind of goofy, I say sometimes, I've never said this in an interview, but sometimes I listen to it, the track almost reminds me of like a 90s sitcom when it like theme song. I just feel like it has just like this really commercial kind of crazy kooky sound. I think it went off without a hitch recording. And then we went in to do the vocals. This was one of those that just, I sang it. It wasn't a one take by any means, but I was feeling really good that day. And I sang it. And I remember Jamie just going, okay, all right, we got that. There's a lot of big notes, but they're right in a sweet spot for me. And I don't know, it just was an easy one.
I worked with a band for a long time, and they would come out of the production studio, and they would listen to it and listen to it and listen to it and listen to it. And then they would be like, man, if I only put this in there, if I only did this, if I only did that. And sometimes they would continuously go back and rewrite it and re-record it, and it never got done.
Oh yeah.
I know that's probably, I'm sure you probably listened to the end result here and maybe said, man, I really wish this instrument was used or something like that. How do you contain yourself from doing that? Otherwise it would never, ever, ever get done.
That's a great question. I think you really, like, I have to be focused on what's coming next. And looking back, it's interesting because you asked earlier, you know, from the first song to this song, do you see, you know, is there growth? Has everything changed? And I think that's really encouraging to me now. I think earlier on, I probably was more apt to get caught in that circle of trying to rewrite, redo. And I think for me, that came from feeling vulnerable and not feeling like, almost feeling like I had to put my best out every time. And I had this standard set for myself. But what happens is you do get stuck just in a circle when you do that. And so I've learned to kind of trust the process. You know, sometimes we have to pull out and, you know, get the wide angle and see everything that's happening. We can't see what's ahead, but we can see all the stuff we've done. And if we're seeing growth, then I think we have to learn to just trust the process and let go of some things when they're done, close that chapter and move on to the next thing and just keep creating.
I agree. And I did the same thing with when I did photography too. It's like, man, if I only did this better. And then it's like, but then you get stuck in your head. It's like, no, because then you're going to doubt yourself. And that's not a very good place to be. So I'm glad you were able to kind of, you know, accept that you did. It's what you exactly wanted and move on. That shows the growth of an artist for sure.
Well, that's all. Yeah, because the options are infinite when you start changing things. So
you'll never stop.
Yeah,
never stop. So we're running out of time, and I do want to be able to get your song on here today. Okay. So how can people find you? How can people see any tours that you got coming up? Of course, the most important part is buying your singles or albums that you have out there. Where can they find you?
Well, the website is a great resource because there's links to everything there. And my name is spelled a little different. So it's ShariRowe. So it's ShariRowe.com. And that's a great, easy resource for everybody. I really love connecting with fans on social media, and I do answer the messages and respond. And I love getting to know people and where they're at and what part of the world they're in. And so that's always a great resource. The music is streaming really anywhere that you're used to listening to music, buying and downloading. So Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, all of those. Yep.
Well, we are actually on television and we're also on the radio. So anybody that's watching this television show, this is pretty much where we're going to end up and end the production. But we are going to be listening to her music on the radio side. So go check that out. But Shari, thank you so much for coming here and spending some time with us and getting to know your music again. For any of the fans that may not have heard about you, I hope that they'll check you out and follow you and continue to support you as well. And again, you're a fun guest. I'd love to have you back on in the future.
Oh, thank you so much. You're fun too. It was great chatting with you. You're a great communicator and this was just a lot of fun. So stay safe. I know there's some storms going on out there. So stay safe, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, and we will definitely have you back on. And guys, right now, what we're going to be doing is playing her song Last Time. So if you're on the radio, have fun with it and let her know what you think. I'm sure she would love to hear that after this. So anyways, we're going to go to the song. It's playing right now. After the song, we're going to come back to a commercial break because we got to pay bills, and then we'll be right back to finish out the show, so don't go anywhere.
Like, OMG, you were on TV and junk.